Hey y'all, welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Scotty Cherie Reads. Today I plan on reviving an old tag that I haven't seen in quite a while, and that is the intimidating TBR or to be read book tag. So grab a drink and let's just get right into it. All right, as I said, this tag I saw circulating like 5-6 years ago when I was just a consumer of BookTube and not a BookTube like content creator. So yeah, I'm gonna leave the original creators, if I can find them, down below, because I always want to give credit where credit's due. But I was intrigued to pick this tag back up and do it because I am actually starting like one of the biggest projects I've done so far, and that is reading Stephen King, all of his books from publication order. So I'm just starting. I've read several books of Stephen King's, but I have wanted to do this for a long time, and I'm finally starting to do that. So I'm on the second book now. It feels good to accomplish something that was like insanely intimidating. So I figured doing this tag kind of fits in with this type of thing, and hopefully talking about these books get me excited about it and diminish some of the intimidating factors, or you guys in the comments can help get me to pick up some of these bigger books that are always a little bit intimidating for us all. I'm gonna start with the first question, which is, what book have you been unable to finish? So for this book, I've talked about this on my channel several times, but that is A Little Life by Hana Yanagihara. I have tried to read this book 2 times so far. The first time I got pretty far. Yeah, the first time I got to about page 500. And then this past June, I was going to pick it up for Pride Month. However, I realized that it probably wasn't the best representation of like Pride Month, since it is written by a woman instead of it being a own voices author. So I put it back down. But I am still intrigued to pick it up at some point. I just don't know why I can't get through it. I don't know. It's a little slow at times. I also know that everyone says you're gonna cry at the end, so I feel like maybe that's why I haven't gotten through it. I'm not sure. So this is the one for that question of what book have you been unable to finish? The second question for this tag is, what's a book that you haven't had the time to finish? So my pick for this is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. So this is a book that I am so eager to read because, if you can't tell, I am a horror fan, and this is an insanely popular book, and it's very popular not only for the writing and for the story itself, but because this book is a complete experience. So I don't know if you can see, but there's some times where like the font and everything is so unique, and there's some, it's like there's hardly anything on the page. There's some with different writing, like it's a story within a story. There's some where it's like you have to read it backwards, where you have to like read it in the mirror. But it's just a journey with how you have to get through this book. So I say this is the answer for the question of I just haven't had the time, because I think that this is a book that you have to completely immerse yourself in. So this is one that I've always wanted to read for like October, where this is the only book that I'm reading, and it's a book that you want to start, but not like put down and pick something up in between. Like you need to be in it to get the full immersiveness of this story. And I just say that I haven't had time to completely devote myself to it. However, someone I really like on BookTube and Bookstagram is Kelsey from Kels Sweetie. I'll have her link below. She's actually reading this and buddy reading it with one of her friends, I think Your Spooky Mom. I'll have their information linked below, but when I saw on Kelsey's video that she was picking it up and she raved about it because this is her second time reading it, I was like, you know, I really want to get to it, so we'll see. I'll try to prioritize it, but I think this was great for that question of what you just haven't had the time to read yet. The third question is, what's a book that you've been unable to finish because it's a sequel? And for that, it is My Favorite Thing is Monsters Part 2. So this came out this year, and this was one of my most anticipated releases of the whole year. I loved the first book, which is My Favorite Thing is Monsters, one of my favorite graphic novels ever and horror stories. However, it had been, I think, 5 years, I'll put down here, that we've been waiting for the second book to release. And what's funny is that even though that's like most anticipated release, or one of my most anticipated releases of this year, I ran out and got it right away. I haven't read it because I feel like it's been so long since I've read the first book that now I need to go back and read the first one before reading the second one. And if you can't tell, these are pretty fat graphic novels. So it's another one where I want to go from one book to the next and read them within like a month. The art style is gorgeous. It looks like a sketch pad almost. So I'm very, very eager to get to it, and I hope I can find some time to do that and prioritize the second book. But yeah, I just have not gotten to this one because it's a sequel, and I need to go back and reread the first one. So I need to kick myself in the ass to get that taken care of because I can't wait to pick this up. Question number 4 is, what book have you been unable to finish because it's brand new? So for this one, I'm going to talk about my recent book of the month pick, which is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. So I've heard that Liz Moore is a well-known, I believe, literary fiction author. I'll put some of her other books here, but I haven't read anything. And the cover of this book itself, I loved and was eager to pick up, even though I didn't know much about it. But then I realized it's kind of a thriller, like literary fiction, and I was like, okay, sold. But then when it came, I picked it up and was like, oh dang, I didn't know it was gonna be that big. So I set it down and I haven't picked it up yet. However, I know that in the month of September, I believe the Literally Dead Book Club is picking this for one of their reads for that month. I'll have the information linked below from Books and Lala. So I'm hoping that's gonna push me to pick this up because it looks pretty chunky. Yeah, it's like over 400, almost 500 page book, which was a surprise. But this just was released in July. So yeah, I'm eager to read this. I'm gonna quickly read the inside flap just so you guys know what it's about because it is a newer release, and I don't know a lot about it. So let's just get right into it. It says, early morning, August 1975, a camp counselor discovers an empty bunk. Its occupant, Barbara Van Laer, has gone missing. Barbara isn't just any 13-year-old. She's the daughter of the family that owns the summer camp and employs most of the region's residents. And this isn't the first time a Van Laer child has disappeared. Barbara's older brother similarly vanished 14 years ago, never to be found. As a panic search begins, a thrilling drama unfolds, chasing down the layered mysteries of the Van Laer family and the blue-collar community living and working in its shadow. Moore's multi-threaded story invites readers into a rich and gripping dynasty of secrets. So that sounds interesting to me. It's just way bigger than I thought. I didn't think it was going to be a 500-page book, so it was a bit intimidating, but I'm hoping to read that in September for the Literary Dead Book Club pick. Question number 5 is, what book have you been unable to finish because you read a book by the same author and didn't enjoy it? That is V. Schwab for me. So this is The Fragile Threads of Power. First off, look at how big that book is. So this one is like 650 pages. And this is a spin-off series from the popular A Darker Shade of Magic trilogy. So, I read A Darker Shade of Magic a long time ago, and I really, really loved the first book. However, as it progressed, I ended up not really liking it. And I think overall, I think that series is just kind of like a 3-star average read for me. I think that it had so much more potential and I was just kind of let down with it at the end. However, the concepts were really gripping. So when I realized that V. Schwab was writing in that world again, I was like, okay, maybe let's give it a second chance. It's been a lot of time. Maybe she's taken feedback from what people did or didn't like from this series and it's gonna be awesome. However, when I got it from Book of the Month, 1, I did not know it was gonna be that big. And 2, funny enough, I literally haven't heard many people talk about this series at all. Like when there was buzz about this coming out, everyone and their mother was talking about it because obviously V. Schwab is a well-loved author and on the BookTube platform and just in general. However, now it's been months and months and months since it's been out and everyone seems like they ran out and bought it, but I haven't heard a lot of people talk about whether they like it or they dislike it. So I think for me, 1, because it's intimidating because it's big, and 2, because I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it. And it was left on, a disappointing feeling with the first trilogy that now I'm like, do I wanna read it? Like, is it worth it? Was I dumb for buying it? So definitely for this one, if you've read it, please let me know your opinion, whether it's positive or negative in the comments, because like I said, I just haven't seen it around BookTube that much once it was released. So We'll see if I'll get around to this one, but I just haven't read it because I didn't really like the original series, or I liked it, but it was just ultimately average for me. So, I mean, I hope that I would like this book, but we'll see. Question number 6 is, what book have you been unable to finish because you're just not in the mood for it? And that is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. So I consider myself more of a fantasy reader. And if there's sci-fi elements, but it's mainly fantasy, those are the books that I generally gravitate towards. The only sci-fi I've really tried out have been short story collections, and I'll put some of them here, and those are ones that I really, really love. However, for some reason, these bigger sci-fi novels just intimidate me. I don't know if it's just because I'm not sure if the science element is going to be too much or it's going to be too boring for me. But I have picked this one up because a lot of people say this is a good intro to epic sci-fi, and it's a booktube classic. There's a TV series from Leviathan Wakes as well. So I bought it, and I know that the Expanse series is very, very popular, even if you're not a sci-fi head. However, like I said, sometimes when I just pick up sci-fi books, it's kind of I think I'm going to be bored. It's not going to be as captivating. I have to get through a lot of work before I can start just immersing myself in it. And I don't know if that's going to be the case, but that's just kind of how I feel. And sometimes I'm just not in the mood for a big sci-fi. So that's the answer to this question. Next up is question number 7, and that is, what's a book have you not been able to finish because it is humongous? I've talked about this a lot on my channel, and that is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. There's another reason why I haven't picked it up yet, is because I personally want to read and finish the Mistborn series, which I'm in the middle of right now. However, the Stormlight Archive is huge. Every single book is how many? At least 1,000 pages for each book. Every book is at least 1,000. And the 5th book comes out at the end of the year, but that's 5 books you have to read in order to just finish the first arc of this 10-book series. So as you can tell, it's huge. The world is expansive. Also, this world is incorporated in the larger Cosmere universe for Brandon Sanderson. So it's just so grand, and I'm eager to pick it up, but that is why I haven't, because just this book itself is humongous, the series itself is humongous, and the Cosmere universe is even bigger. So that's the answer to this question. Question number 8 is, what book have you been unable to finish because it was a cover buy that turned out to have bad reviews? So this is a funny one, because this book is, honestly, the title of this book I have a hard time with. I believe it is titled S by J.J. Abrams. However, this is the coolest book that I own, because it's a book within a book within a book within a book. So I'm going to try to show you guys what I mean by this story. It's kind of like House of Leaves, but even more immersive, because there are actual maps and postcards in each spot. There's writing on the pages. For instance, here's a good example where there's a postcard there. Inside, there's different colored ink from different people who have read and have tried to figure out the mystery of this book. So you can read this book multiple times. You can read just the normal black and white, the black print in there. Then you can go back and read it as the person who had the blue pen versus the green pen. And it's just really cool. Yeah, look at this page. This one right here has this letter in the center that is part of the story as well. You see, it's just so well thought out. So it's kind of a cover buy, and just the immersive experience is interesting to me. However, one, this is insanely intimidating because this is going to take me months to get through, and maybe multiple reads. So this is insanely intimidating for that reason. However, what's also funny is that some of the reviews on Goodreads are just it's average, and it's not really worth all of the time going through. So it's not like it's completely well loved like House of Leaves. I feel like every person that I respect, really like their opinion, or we have similar taste, love House of Leaves and say that it's worth the journey. But I don't know a lot of people that have conquered this. So if you have, and you're one of the few people who have conquered S, Let me know if it's worth it or not. I feel like I'm gonna at least attempt it for sure, and I'm hoping that I'll love it because I don't think there's anything out there that's as detail oriented as this book. But yeah, let me know if you've read it and if it's worth it. But by God, this is probably one of the most intimidating books that I own. And speaking of the most intimidating books I own, the last question of this intimidating TBR book tag is, what's the most intimidating book on your TBR pile? And because I'm Scotty, I have more than one pick, but I'm gonna go through them pretty quickly. The two that I have here are both classics. One is Les Miserables, because this is probably the biggest book that I own. It's over 1,200 pages, and I know it's about war, and there's a lot of characters, and it takes place over a long period of time, so it's just intimidating. I know that people really like it. I was gifted this book and I'm super excited about it, but I am very intimidated. I'm sure I'll get to it at one point in my life, but that is a scary book. Next up is another book that I was gifted from my in-laws. They actually got me this one for my birthday, and Moby Dick, which obviously it's not quite as big. I mean, it's still a big book, but it's not even 1,000 pages. However, it's just about a man and a whale. And like, people that have read it or have conquered this book do say that it's so worth it from the writing, but just the pacing itself is really intimidating. So these are two that I am glad were gifted to me, and they have always been on my list. But I feel like it's one of these books that I'm always like, well, I'll get to it eventually. So let me know if you've read these and you're like, hey, Scotty, it's actually worth it to pick these up, because they're just scary. I mean, look at them. They're intimidating. And the last one I have for this question is a nonfiction read, and that is Black Reconstruction in America, 1860 through 1880 by W.E.B. Du Bois. So this is gonna be a hard read. It tells you everything you need to know in the title. It is very thick. However, I think that this is like the Black Bible, dang near. Like, this is one that I feel like everyone needs to read at some point in their life, and I'm just gonna have to tackle it pretty slowly, but I just think that it's gonna be intense. The back reads, this pioneering work was the first full-length study of the role Black Americans played in the crucial period after the Civil War, when the slaves had been freed and the attempt was made to reconstruct American society. Hailed at the time, it has justly been called a classic. So yeah, that's just a heavy topic and a probably in detail read that I'm gonna want to kind of write notes for, and it's just gonna be a doozy. So that's probably one of the most intimidating books that I have on my TBR. Alrighty, that's it. That's all. As I said, this is a tag video, so I'm gonna have people linked below who are some of my favorite booktubers that I would like to see their response to these questions. But of course, anyone can do this tag. Just make sure you link the original creators that I have down below in order to give credit where credit's due. Other than that, if you like what you saw, as always, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps me out, and I will chat with y'all in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.